We ask that you would lead and guide us. We ask that as we take care of this business, that you would be in our midst. We ask you to search our hearts, souls, and minds, be acceptable in thy sight. Lord, after today is over, whatever we do, let us be able to give you some glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All face the flag. As we pledge our allegiance to the greatest country on earth, let us also be mindful of the sacrifices of our POWs and MIA. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Taylor.
Present.
Councilman Brooks.
Here.
Councilman Talaferro.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Butcher. Councilman Jackson. Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilwoman Bowles.
Present.
Thank you. Tomorrow, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the administrative conference and special meeting Monday, February 13, 2023, and city council meeting Tuesday, February 14. This time, does any council member have any awards, recognition of distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes? Councilwoman Bowman?
Yes, I have Commissioner Ken Epperson.
Good afternoon.
Good
To the chairman of the council, council members, mayor, his staff, general audience. I'm Kenneth R. Epperson Sr., Caddo Parish Commissioner, District 12, also a citizen of the Timberline Subdivision, 3822 Treat Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm here to represent the commission. I'm here to represent on a personal nature and also to represent the Pines Road Area Business Association Incorporated. We are here to ask for your support of resolution regarding the placement of a Department of Motor Vehicles satellite site within the City Council District G in the Caddo Parish District 12 area in and around the Pines Road, Financial Plaza, Westport area. The infrastructure certainly can support it. We will do all that we can work with you. The commission has passed a resolution in support of it. We're in communications with the state, Department of Public Safety, and we are here to work with each and every one of you to see that we can bring that to fruition. Within the proximity of Interstate 220, 3132, Highway 7980, Interstate 49, Interstate 20, east and west. We certainly have the infrastructure and the easy accessibility to establish a facility such as this. So we ask that you would support this resolution today, and we would do all that we can in conjunction with the neighborhoods within the West Shreveport, West Caddo area, as well as the Caddo Parish Commission. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you for coming down with your support. One thing we are doing together is listening to our constituents and giving them their needs they want in their community. Sometimes we get some backlash on the things that come to the community. If you don't like it, don't support it. If you want it, tell us, and we'll do our best to get it done.
Thank you.
I thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chief Smith.
That's it? Okay, thank you all. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
I know recently what we've had is a surge of homicides in the area that is always very concerning for the city. I do realize that in my zip code at this particular point that we are leading with those homicides, and what I need to know from you is what support do you need from us? Where are we in solving most of those homicides that have occurred within the area? I know that there are going to be some things that we're going to do within the community and some other things that I'm looking at as well to help with the curtailment of crime. There was some talks during COVID time with the U.S. Attorney's Office of doing some of those community walks in conjunction with Shreveport Police Department, Sheriff, and other municipalities. But if you can give us a little bit of what it is that you all are looking at and to try to help curtail what we have what is it more that we need in the community, and what do you need from this council?
We met last week, the U.S. Attorney, myself, and some other federal agencies, local agencies, to discuss what we can do jointly better to address our violence here in Shreveport. And we came up with some excellent ideas. That is moving forward. Another meeting has been scheduled here in the very near future with all of us again to further discuss that. The staff and I have already met and devised a plan to shift some additional resources that way. And we're going to be doing that with funding that's already provided to us through our budget and in forms of overtime. We're going to intensify the efforts to get the guns off of the street, and also to target some of the main players that seem to be the conspirators in what's going on around our city. So some plans are in place. I'm just reluctant to speak too much in details about it at this point. Yes, ma'am, but some plans are in place to help not only in your council district, but across our city, because, you know, trouble knows no boundaries.
Is there anything that you all need from us?
No, ma'am, not at this point. The administration has been quite generous in providing us the financial support that we need to go forward to put additional resources there without taking away from anything else. So everything is good at this point.
I know that there are going to be a couple of community meetings scheduled in my district to go in and address crime and have a more cozier conversation of some things that we can do. Also to the initiative Operation Safe Neighborhoods that we look to go over to implement. Ms. Moore, you can come and speak about that for a minute, of what we want to do in some of our high crime areas to help our homeowners. I know that Councilwoman Bowman wanted to increase the support for this particular initiative as well, and Councilman Green and Councilman Jackson as well. And this was a program that pretty much was similar to the parish program with the cameras, and providing those cameras into those particular areas of need in order to help with safety and public safety, but to secure our neighborhoods even more, and to help you all with the plight that you all have, because we want to have a safe city as much as possible. And probably you could tell me in the next couple of weeks or whatever, when we'll get ready to launch that program. Gonna talk with Foster Campbell's office a little bit more about lighting within our neighborhoods to increase that particular capacity. And then I'll talk to you about some other things, of some patterns that I'm seeing that we can address.
Okay, awesome. Please keep me in the loop on those community meetings, and if I'm welcome, I would love to come.
Oh, you will be there front and center.
Okay, and another part of our crime reduction strategy, just to bring all of you up to speed, the Real-Time Crime Center is now a part of the police department.
Okay.
And most recently, an independent auditor, consultant has come in and has taken a close look at every aspect of that, and we'll be able to integrate more intelligent, artificial intelligent technology into that that I think is really, really going to help us into the future.
Okay.
All right, but that is underway as we speak.
Mr. Chair. And Chief, some of these issues that's disturbing to me is happening in broad daylight. So I don't know if these perpetrators don't have fear of being caught, you know, because we don't have cameras. I'm not sure what the mindset is, but is there anything that the community can do in order to make, you know, to assist you guys with these efforts as well?
Absolutely.
You can share, we want to know.
People that live in a community, and I'm going to use you as an example. You know your neighborhood better than I do because you live there. You know when something appears to be unusual. You know it better than I do, unusual for your neighborhood. If the community would just continue to call us, let us know when something appears to be out of the ordinary, and you would be surprised how much of a deterrent we can be with our presence, and if we're able to get in front of something before it happens. But community support is very, very important. And we are finding, and we went over details a lot more than you know at this time about all of our 15 shootings so far this year. And there's a great deal more to them, the root cause, than you know about. The majority of them, the perpetrators and the victims are familiar with each other. They're friends, acquaintances, for one reason or the other, or even family members, and the list just goes on and on and on. So just, I don't know if random is the appropriate word, as opposed to the majority of it being planned, and it just so happened that they run across each other at a particular time.
And Chief, one more thing I want to bring to you on the record. I haven't spoke to you about it off the record, but I do want to bring it in this format. There was a call-in to 911 where somebody in my district was witnessing a burglary in the act. And the dispatch called them back about 2 hours later, asking them were the perpetrators still inside. And this was 2 hours later. So I will give you more detail, but
Please
I just
do.
kind of want to bring that to your radar, that they felt really, really upset because that could have been anybody home. They saw it in the act, and nobody acted on that until right then and there. It took
Yes,
2
sir.
hours for a call back before anything happened.
Please provide me additional information. Let me get to the root cause. That should not have happened like that, not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Chief, something that we really hadn't discussed in quite a while is the number of our officers. And are you able to do what you need to do with the numbers that you have? And I guess that kind of piggybacks on what both Councilman Jackson said and Councilwoman Taylor are saying about what we can do. You know, for a while we talked about we were losing officers. Has that stopped since the 13% raise, or are we still losing officers? And I don't want you to show your cards, but I would like to know, maybe more in a private setting, is there anything we can do? Because what I hear on the streets, to lead to what Councilman Jackson said, is sometimes we just don't have enough officers to get there in a timely manner. And if it's something that we can do as a council to help you be able to retain or get more officers, if that's what the problem is. And I think I heard you say you were gonna do some realigning, maybe putting some people that in different divisions into patrol. But I would kind of like to know, because that was a real hot topic, when Chief Raymond was here, the number of officers that we're losing, and we've not heard much about that. So I'm hoping we hadn't heard anything about it because it stopped. But, what you hear rumblings behind is that maybe there's some things going on.
We're not able to keep up with attrition, it appears. We're about 131 short, which is a couple increase probably from the last time we talked. We have 15, I believe, cadets in the academy right now that are training. But the sad reality is by the time they get through the academy and spend 3 or 4 months OJT riding with someone else, the chances are good almost that many would have left. We're coming up to a difficult next year or so because so many have reached the point that they can retire, and I do expect probably at least 8 or 10 on the top end ranking people to retire this year. So, every time somebody with rank retires, it creates movement. Whenever movement is created, it sort of decreases your silver badge on the bottom side. With that many people short, each day it appears that you're a car running with 3 tires, to use that analogy.
Well,
So
and that's, I've heard that, and
Yes.
we've not, like I said, we've not discussed that much.
Yes.
I guess that I just, and I don't, one question is, we talked about the raise and that we were losing people laterally, but I see that y'all are bringing in some laterals from other departments, which I think is excellent, that you're getting some trained officers in. Have the lateral moves kind of slowed down a little bit?
No, it is improving. The 13% immediately showed an improvement in laterals. That's post-certified police officers that are a member of other departments that come to the city of Shreveport. Our cadet program, where we're able to hire someone a little bit early as soon as they pass the process, is really, really benefiting us. We have generally 2 academies a year, and we lose people who are processing, and it's 3 or 4 or 5 months before the academy began. Well, people got to feed their family and make a living, but due to the cadet program that y'all helped us with, as soon as someone passes all the requirements, we can put them on the payroll, then hire them, put them in some other function, and when the academy starts, they transfer over from wherever they assigned to there. That is benefiting us greatly, so much. Birthdays, we have some people, sometime their 21st birthday doesn't happen untoward the end of the year. We're able to take them at 20 years old as a cadet, assign them to the training program. They're getting a lot of the training up front that they wouldn't get until the academy, but we're able to keep them until the academy begins. So we got some things in place that is helping, but nonetheless, it's not a clear solution to our entire problem.
Well, I think it's scary to me to say, what you said about us losing our seasoned officers, and
Yes, sir.
and that's on your radar. So hopefully we can maybe come up with some initiatives to try to help that, because we already have a true problem.
And the state is helping us out greatly. Generally, a civil service exam has been given about once or twice a year here in the Shreveport community, but the state has made it available now so a person can take the civil service exam by proctor at any time. I think it costs $40 or $45, and we're taking some computers that we have, setting up a place inside SPD where a person can actually come whenever they want to and take the civil service exam and get in the process for a civil service employee. We think that's going to be really, really promising.
Thank you, Chief.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Operation Safe Neighborhood.
Good afternoon. As Vice Chairman Taylor has indicated, Operation Safe Neighborhoods is a crime prevention effort that we hope will be a deterrent to crime in our neighborhoods and hopefully have a drastic impact on the elimination of crimes in these neighborhoods. It will be an inexpensive tool to help combat crime, which will include, in our initial phase, cameras that will be doorbell cameras that will be tied directly to the real-time crime center. We will also have phase 2, 3, and 4, which will include floodlights, door stoppers, lights that light up communities where it's very dark and it's an opportunity for crime to exist in those areas. And so we'll work through that. We'll also combine that with a blight elimination RFP for our community, as well as some cleanup efforts in association with property standards. And so we're working really, really hard, and if I would say that Vice Chairman Taylor has been a real champion for this, and so we're working really, really hard to get this done for our community. I also spoke to a national foundation who reached out to Shreveport because they heard about some of the things that are happening here, not just the negative things, but some of the positive things as well. And they want to help us try to address some of the drastic issues that cause crime. As Chief has indicated, there are some underlying reasons why crime exists in our community. And we have to work on those things in order to eradicate crime. It can't be just always intervention. We have to really, really work toward prevention of crime in our communities. So Operation Safe Neighborhood is a start to something I think that will be much greater and transformative for our community.
What are we projecting? I know that we were waiting on the vendors for the camera. Do we have a projected time? Probably, maybe looking at in the next 60 days, 30 to 60
Yeah.
days.
Due to supply and demand issues, it's been really, really hard to get the equipment here. We've waited months for the equipment, and so we keep saying that we're 30 days out, and I would say that we're probably about still 30 days out.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Does any other council member have any awards, recognition of the distinguished guests? Mr. Mayor, do you have any awards of recognition of a distinguished guest?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any further business, Mr. Mayor?
I do have a statement I'd like to make,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor. To the, Mr. Chairman and members, I did promote you, but that's all right. I'll stay in my position, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Members of the council. I speak to you with a heavy heart. I know the murders of the last few weeks burden your hearts and pound your brains, and they burden me as well. As the poet John Donne has said, any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Any person's death in Shreveport diminishes each of us. My heart continues to hurt for our city, yet another shooting has left families in pain, sorrow, and frustration. And I am asking our citizens for help. If you know the people committing these acts of violence or who may be involved in the groups committing these acts of violence, please make the necessary calls to the Shreveport Police Department or to Crime Stoppers. The only way we can stop this violence is to work together for families, communities, and this city. You've already seen some of the things that individual council members are doing, that the administration is doing, but we need citizen assistance if we're going to curb this rate of homicides in our city. We are one Shreveport. What affects one of us affects all of us. This is our city, and we are better than this. In response to some of the things that you asked of the chief, I will let you know that we are actively considering options for better retention and recruitment of police officers so that we can get some more police officers on the street, with particular attention to transfers, because those people can get on the street more quickly. Yesterday I nearly came upon the scene yesterday afternoon quite by accident, and in fact I didn't know it was the scene of a crime at the time. My wife and I were headed to eat lunch after church yesterday, and then I later discovered what actually had occurred. So Dr. Jackson, I feel very much for you. I know it happened in your district. Ms. Taylor, the same for you. We have discussed this. Every one of these weighs heavily on all of our hearts, and certainly very heavily on you and the districts that are involved. And so you have my support and you have my sympathy. We are actively working on the problem. I wish there were an easy solution that I could announce to you today. All of you are working toward that, and so are we, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does any member have any concerns, property standards concern for Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Green, would you come, please?
Mr. Green, so we have a property standard sweep on the 1st.
Yes. We'll send out another reminder.
Say it again.
We'll send out another reminder.
Okay. CC Antoine is the pickup location for it. Allendale Lakeside.
Right.
Pretty much anybody can bring whatever it is that they have from any area, but and the times are from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yes.
You can bring any of your items with the exception of paint and medical supplies.
Right.
Okay. Did have some concerns around the Lakeshore Portland area.
Mm-hmm.
There is a empty lot, I think it's 2 empty lots that are right there, and then going across that bridge, where there's just an influx of trash right there.
Coming over the bridge?
Coming over the bridge, going towards, what is that? Not Virginia. Going down Portland.
Okay,
As though you're
okay.
heading to
I got you.
Greenwood Road. In that area right there around that particular thoroughfare, that I know that would need to be cleaned. I don't know who those lots belong to.
Some are city, some are private.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd like to turn around and get those cleaned, for sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Green, we've talked about this, the issue I'm having on Uri Drive. I mean, it's all over the city, but mainly on Uri Drive. And I talked to the police chief about it the other day. And I just want some clarification from you as well. In a lot of these cases, some of the trash and things are coming in on private property, and sometimes the property owners don't even know about it. And in order for y'all to clean up, like some of these encampments and things like that, do we have to go through the full process? I mean, what do we need to do? Because it's every day I'm getting a call about this.
We're not the homeless mover people. We don't have a process for that. We just do it as it comes in.
Okay.
In cases where it's not as bad, we're gonna wait the process. But in other cases where it's starting to mess with the traffic and whatnot, then we'll go ahead on and take care of it.
And a lot of it is just the trash that's accumulating. Like, I think that Mr. Norman sent his crew out the other day to pull some out of the bayou by Portico. I think they pulled out probably 75 buggies from Walmart out of the bayou. And I've said on Facebook and to some people that have called me that if it's private property and the property owner knows about it, they need to let us know because they're trespassing.
Right.
I just didn't know if there was a process we had to go through to tear this down, because I don't want it to get the way it did on Uri Drive next to Walmart, because it got horrible down there.
Well, there is no process in place that deals with the homeless population, and it's something that's needed bad.
What would your suggestion be? Maybe in a property standards meeting, talk about this, or?
No. I would talk to SPD first, because if I'm not mistaken, they have something that the owners can sign to say that, hey, we didn't give anybody permission to be on here. If you see somebody on this property, you can take them off. So, I think that needs to be looked at, and it's going to be a joint thing. It's going to be, it would have to be us, police and public works, working it together, so.
Well, y'all did a great job doing Uri Drive. I just know that since then, we've had tents that have sprung up all over, and I sent it over to Chief Smith,
Yeah.
a tent that sprung up right in front of Goodwill over there behind Tinseltown. And
That's probably the same people.
yeah, so, I mean, Chief, you have, because it's not just in my district. I think it's in a lot of our districts. And
It's
we
all
don't-
over.
We don't want to kick, people that are having hard times, but we also don't want them tearing up private property.
There is a process in place that we got the city court judges in cooperation with us a few years back, and it went through the council fine, but it highlights bona fide commercial property, such as parking lots, shopping centers, any bona fide commercial property. They can register that property with the Shreveport Police Department, but they have to post a sign up at each entrance where there's no doubt in their mind that anyone can see it, that owner is giving us the permission to keep people from loitering on the property for trespassing. We have that owner's permission at any time if someone doesn't appear to be there legitimately to do business. We can ask them to leave, and if they decide not to leave, then we take action on the owner's behalf. But that owner have to sign an affidavit with the city swearing that if a court challenge happens, that they themselves will come to court and testify that we were acting on their behalf. So that process is in place, but it has to be a bona fide commercial piece. That was put into place when we were having such cruising problem and people hanging out on shopping centers and parking lots.
Well, is there anything that maybe the administration can do to get that out to the public, that program is there? Because I know a lot of the owners of properties I'm talking to don't have any idea what to do. Is there anything we could do? Maybe, I know y'all have a very robust Facebook program. Is there anything that we can do about that?
Chairman, may I respond?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll be delighted to do that, both through the Facebook, and then we'll issue a press release that outlines the process that the chief just outlined.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
There's a
Mayor,
sign that they purchased, a sign a couple of years ago, was like $5, and they had to put it up themselves, and I'll be happy to forward you what that sign looks like.
That would speed the process up, because a lot of these business owners just don't know what to do about this. And I just hate to see it get to the point that it did over there by Portico. It was awful, and by Walmart.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, can that be updated on our Shreveport channel as well?
Yes, ma'am, we certainly can. Yes, ma'am, good idea, thank you.
Because I would think that would be good to constantly rotate that information there, Chief, that you have on there, since we do have a lot of people that watch that channel.
It was quite effective when it began. Within a few weeks, it eliminated our cruising problem from people hanging out on parking lots.
Okay.
All right, thank y'all.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Green, I'd also like to get with you on, for a suite in District F. I'll get with you.
Okay.
Mr. Green,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Ladies. Okay. I had 3 issues. Mr. Clark, do you mind coming up to the podium too, because the last issue would involve you. First one is probably going to be a combination of you, Mr. Green, and streets and drainage. I have a person who's built some French drains to channel their water from their backyard into the city drain. But it's created like a little waterfall issue where it has some type of erosion. So kind of wanted to look at that.
You can give
I have
me
another.
the address. It's probably not going to be something that we'll deal with,
Okay.
but I will take a look at it.
I have another home, 1136 Southland Park. The tenants were evicted, and somebody threw all of their stuff on the front yard. So we're talking about mattresses, beds, just everything, and it's been like that for about 9 days now and counting.
How long has it been out?
About 9 days now and counting.
Okay.
And that's 1136 Southland Park. The last issue, of course, is the Kingston Road with the truck park. That has been giving me a lot of issues. I know about the litigation. I've tried to explain that to my constituents as much as possible, but the issue is there's a lot of property standard violation going on, and I've been sharing with them that it's kind of hard for us to police it, why it's still going in litigation. So I want y'all to kind of speak to that on the record to see what can be addressed as far as parking on the grass, them washing the trucks, creating mud into the streets. Just a lot of issues that the residents are not happy with.
Would you like for me to respond?
Yes, sir.
We did reach out to those owners last week and advise them that the things that they're doing are not, regardless to what's in place, they're going far beyond what they were allowed to do in the stay that was established at that particular site. We are on the final terms of approving the site plan for them. There were some problems with their design professional that we hope has been resolved. And once we get the site plan approved, then they will start movement from the Kingston Road Francis site immediately. They're well aware that they are living on borrowed time and making preparations to make that move as expeditiously as possible. And we reached out to the city attorney's office and asked them for whatever assistance that they may be able to give us if this does not happen as they promised us that it would be happening.
Are they gonna fix the minor,
We've
property
asked
standard
them to do
violation?
that. We will work with them because they are well aware that they rutted up, and you may have seen the email that I sent to them, but they are well aware that they rutted up the site, and they did a whole lot of unnecessary damage to the site. And we've asked them to restore the site once they leave, but they can't do anything right now with all the trucks and the cars on the site. But we requested that they do those things, and we'll do everything within our power to ensure that that happens.
Thank you.
Mr. Green, there's a lot on Lakeshore Drive and Greenwood Road. I'll email you the physical addresses. But what has happened is a company is dumping concrete there. It's one on Lakeshore and one on Greenwood Road. And I think they own the property, but what can we do about them just dumping trash there? Old concrete, et cetera, old supplies.
I'll have to look at it
I
and
think
see what.
Mr. Clark, they cited them.
They did.
Mr. Clark, is that the property on Lake Shore with the concrete and the tree limbs? Yes, ma'am. That was cited for illegal dumping site?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were cited for illegal dumping site. I don't know how much time do they have to remove it? I guess is my question.
The stuff that he cited him for?
Mhm.
The process works after we cite them. They have 10 days after receipt of the citation to take action, and then we'll do another inspection. And after that final inspection, then we will reach out to the city court and the city attorney's office to take legal actions against them. I wasn't prepared right now to tell you exactly where we are on it, but I'll be happy to get that information to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
we issued this citation last week.
Right.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman.
I think it was the week before last.
Thank you.
It's been
It
over
may
10
not,
days.
I'm gonna have to start bringing the zoning administration down here, but it may not have reached and been, signed for at this point, but I'll find that information out for both of you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Clark, while you up, do you have a master plan report for tomorrow?
I will have a report for tomorrow.
Okay.
A short report.
Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Green? All right, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Okay. Did everyone receive their budget and financial report? Public hearings none. Mr. Dork, will there be any legislation to be added tomorrow?
I'm not aware of any, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'd also like to recognize two distinguished guests that just walked in, Mr. Daniel and Mr. Hobby, and also another gentleman with them. Thank y'all for gracing us with your presence today.
Mr. Hobley.
Mr. Chisholm.
Yeah, can y'all come up for a second? Got a quick question.
Ms. Daniel, I don't know if you know, but Don Hobby worked day and night. I don't ever know if he clock out or not. He worked day and night.
Yeah, he calls me day and night.
Good evening.
I'm not sure all the time he's working at night, he's really working at night.
Good evening. If you
Mr. Sneed is in the back room there too, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, so.
Okay.
Okay. I just really wanted a real quick update on 70th and Pines. They have been working daily, but.
Mr. Chisholm's going to give you that update.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we're just about finished with it, so in about 2 weeks, it should be fully restored. For those of y'all that don't know, there was a sizable void up under the road. We happened to come across it one evening as a fire truck drove over a panel that moved. So there was previously a manhole in that road. To get rid of that risk and minimize that risk going forward, we've replaced all the sewer line, put it in the casing, and removed the manhole. So it's been quite the emergency ordeal. Luckily, no one fell in. We've secured the site. We're restoring the site, and we should be done in about 2 weeks. The pumps that you all have seen since then, will be pulled tomorrow morning. And we're also doing a chemical injection upstream to help with the smell. So you guys should also notice a difference in the smell on Pines Road going forward.
That's what I have been getting. I have been getting a lot of calls about the sewer smell.
Yes, ma'am.
And to see how long, but thank y'all for helping. I see y'all working every day, but I just want to give an update to my citizens.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, all of that pipe deteriorated because of the sewer gas just ate it up. We're putting a chemical in to help keep that from happening in the future.
Mr. Daniel, while you're here, then you can give your glorious update on Ford Street, so we can tell them where we are and what we're working
Sure.
on.
We've been working on Ford Street quite steadily since, for probably about 8 months. It was a very complicated project because of all the utility lines that were there. We have since pretty well got them all located. We've got, I think the plans are going to be done in like the next 30 days or so, and then it'll be ready to go out for bid.
Okay.
Mr. Daniels, have you visited Don's church that he bought some time ago?
Which one?
Don, you hadn't invited Mr. Daniels to your church you bought? Thank you. Thank
The
you.
Church of Hobby practices at a lot of different places.
Thank you. Today, we will hear public comments on non-agenda items and agenda items as well. The vice chair will control that.
Mr. Craig Lee.
Craig Lee, 1112 Prospect Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, the beautiful District B. I'm going to speak on the ordinance 31 and asking the council to maintain the AI system. But before I get into that, Councilman Jackson asked the question, what can citizens do? And Mayor, being a board member of Dads on Duty, one of the best things that citizens can do is to join Dads on Duty. I'm glad that Chief Smith talked about prevention, because oftentimes when we talk about the criminal aspect, we're talking after the fact. And I tell people all the time, neither video cameras nor police are geared to prevent the crimes. So when we talk about the citizens, we're talking prevention. And you're not going into the habitat that most of these young people are in. So the safest place to deal with them at the school level. Not only at the high school, but we have to curb the behavior at the elementary level and the junior high level. We'll be launching very shortly Moms on Duty, because what we found at Southwood, there is a need not only to mentor and impact young male children, but also young female children. And there are some decisions and conversations that have to be made with adult females. Which now takes me into advocating for the AI traffic situation that we have throughout the school zones and whatnot. Southwood on Long Walk Road was a notorious speed zone. People will speed up and down there regardless of the stop signs. And since we have fewer officers, we need as many officers on their assignments versus being posted up in school zones. I think there's some kinks that can be worked out. I know I talked to Councilwoman Bowman about Lakeshore Drive. That has been resolved in terms of what I'm hearing, but I'm in favor of keeping that situation going. I think we can work those things out and improve that situation. But as it relates to what we need to do as citizens to work with law enforcement, work with the city council, the mayor's office, citizens have to get involved, and Dads on Duty, Moms on Duty is the right outlet for that, and that's the safest outlet because most teachers and educators at the school are afraid of the children, and we need positive role models to get involved in the system so we can now make an impact and then curb the violence that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Shonda Reynolds.
Hello.
Hi.
Shonda Reynolds, 7855 Oak Creek Trail, Shreveport, 71129. I come today to stand in opposition to Resolution 31. I feel like Blue Line Solutions is dedicated to our partnership with the City of Shreveport and the goal of reducing speeding vehicles in the city school zones. Over the last several months, we have worked to improve the conditions of the school zones by purchasing signage, adding radar feedback signs, and supplying public information and education materials to the city. Blue Line has been requested to make changes to school time placards, replace school zone flashers, and other improvements in which we have done that would normally be the responsibility of the city. We agreed to these additional expenditures because of our firm belief in and pursuit of the goal of making Shreveport a safer city for its residents and students. The additional signage, equipment, and labor have come at a significant cost, which is above what is customary with our accounts. We are concerned about Resolution 31 and its impact on the safety and the continuation of the program. Furthermore, it may be a breach of the contract agreed upon by the City of Shreveport and Blue Line Solutions, specifically the terms enlisted in Exhibit B, City Obligations and Scope of Work. It is in Blue Line's intent to honor the contract while working with the city to make school zones a safe place for the community members within them. We believe Resolution 31 would place a large obstacle in front of that goal. Rather than stopping the progress already made, we believe the best step forward is to extend the contract and program to make up for the time lost due to changes requested by the city. Misinformation given to the Blue Line Solutions by the city's Public Works Department, employees, and other delays that have prevented the program from reaching our goal of 0 speeders in Shreveport school zones. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Reynolds? Ms. Reynolds? Ms. Reynolds?
You mentioned
I'm
a Section B. Does the administration know what that section states? Does anybody have a copy of that contract? Or
I
can
don't
you-
have it in front of me, but I can get it to you.
Okay, I'm just trying to see what that violation may be.
Can I pull it up and send you an email?
Yeah. Or you just put it up and just, do we have any more public comments? Yeah, once you pull it up, just let us know.
Okay.
And we're still in
Let
the
me
session.
find
you
it
can
and
come back.
I'll.
Okay.
All right. Do you have a question?
Ms. John Glover?
John Glover, 9100 Walker Road, apartment 217, Shreveport, 71118. First, I want to bring to you all's attention the need to speak in your mics because we can hardly hear you and I'm sitting here on the first row. Number two, I did get information from your chief deputy clerk that saved a lot of y'all. Thank you, Chief Deputy Clerk. But there is one situation that I need input from. Don't know when I'll get it, but I hope it's before tomorrow. And that's the issue of you all electing the clerk of council. What process or procedure will you undertake? Will it be the chairman who chooses? He chose the last one. So we need to be mindful of what we're doing. We need to make sure that those that we are contemplating, considering, are indeed equipped to do that job in its entirety. Though on-the-job training may not be a bad thing. When Mr. Thompson was here, those who were under his tutelage did well in learning that job. Ms. Smith didn't have that. She came in October. So I'm not sure exactly what it was or what it is that really constituted her wanting to walk away. Don't really care about the allegations that were made, but just want us to get this city back on the right track. We can't do it with division and divisiveness. We have to be willing to work collectively, cohesively, and not thinking we gave you a blank check, because we didn't. Because voices like myself will be raised when we don't agree with something that you all may put before us, thinking that we won't address. You know, again, I learned so much under this new administration, sad to say, but I did and do, because they actually tell me what these different ordinances are that's going to be coming up for the next reading or the next vote. We didn't get that at first. I asked a number of times, what is the purpose of the administrative conference in the first place? Is it a work session, or is it just somewhere we come and listen that folks just read or disregard and do whatever they want to do? At the end of the day, we all must remember, we the people hired you all through our vote. And yes, though you represent districts, you represent we the people. Thank you.
Ms. Glover,
Yes.
who is Ms. Smith?
Kendra. I'm sorry, Joseph. I apologize for the last name. I apologize.
And the next thing is, I did not, if you go back and read the records, I did not select the last clerk. I believe if the record would serve, I believe she got 7 votes from up here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Thank you.
Being rude is not a
Ma'am,
deal.
I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, so you
Just
get to
take
be
your seat.
rude, and that's okay. Thank you.
Let me
Miss-
explain
Thank you.
something.
No, don't explain.
Yes,
You just
I will.
did it.
Take your seat. Let me explain this. For 4 years, this council has honored you. For the last 4 years, not a council member up here interrupt you. We allow you to come up and speak to us, if though you are a grandmama. We've done that for 4 years. We have not said nothing. You come up here, you speak, you treat us like we some grandchildren of yours. Every time you come up here, you point your finger and you telling us this and you tell. We never interrupt you. But when you go back to your seat, when each of us talk, you make gestures, you talk out loud, you are very disrespectful, but you want respect. Even now, I sit here, listen to you, didn't make no gestures, didn't say nothing. But then when it comes to you, Ms. Glover, you always go back to your seat. I have to hit the hammer. Then you'll say stuff, and then you'll turn your nose up. Then you'll go over to Nita, and then you'll say something to her. That's very disrespectful. But when somebody says something to you, then you're like our grandmama. Then you want to say, y'all children don't have anything to say to me. Everybody up here was elected to do a job. Everybody up here does a good job. We do the best we can with what we got. Everybody up here, when they were elected, we got more than 400 votes. We've been up here for a while, and we are doing our job. As we respect you, when you standing up there, you don't see this council making gestures. You don't see us whispering. You don't see us acting all out. We respect you. I respect you. You've never seen me when you talking, leaning over talking to anybody, or doing any of that. And so, when you say James Green selected the last clerk, that's not true, but the public will believe that. And always know that I don't care what you write about me. I don't care none about whatever is written about me, because the people look at who is doing the writing. And so I'm up here doing the best I can, and I have just reached my point that every week, for 4 years, and this is going on 5, you have never stood there with love in your heart. It's always something damning us that we ain't doing this. One is this. There's a school board. They pay taxes. We pay, our taxes go there. Go over to the sheriff's department, talk to him. Go to the DA's department, talk to them. Go to the coroner's office, talk to them. Go to the governor's office, talk to them. Go to the United States Congress and talk to them like you talk to us. Because we are not the only body that receive tax dollar. And we just deserve more respect. Every council member up here, not one has ever disrespected you. And it's about high time that somebody else say something to say, Ms. Glover, will you come one Sunday, one day with love in your heart to say, at least just say, y'all walked up there right. at least, because every council member up here for 4 years, and the new ones are doing as hard as they can. Every council member can testify that we work together to make this city better. Now, you may not see it. We gave every department everything they needed to make this city better. And every time you come up here, then it's got to be some negative and it's got to be some bad. Now, if you go over to, if I see you over at the sheriff's office telling him about your tax dollar, and if I see you at the coroner's office and the DA office and all over at the judges and all of those folk, I feel much better. But down here, you can be on TV. If you go to them, you're not going to be on TV. So I just reached my point that I've had enough. I'm not your grandchild. I'm an elected official. And I just expect that you don't have to like me. We don't have to go eat. We don't have to go fishing. But when you come in here, I just demand respect. And I'm going to give you respect. Thank you. Madam Chair.
John Settle.
That's what I'm talking about, Ms. Glover. See how you're talking out now? Disrespectful. But you don't talk when he's coming. Do you want to leave? Do you want to leave? Thank you. This ain't the day and tomorrow ain't looking good. Yes, sir. Thank you.
John Settle for Tealwood. One, when we're talking about Blue Line, I got to leave that to the mayor and his legal counsel. I know the lady that spoke before was trying to interpret the agreement. I've reviewed it. I don't think she's an attorney, and I believe she actually works for Blue Line. But the reason I came today was really my concern for our police officers. Been a lot of discussion today about crime, shortages. I haven't heard of any press conferences or any prayer meetings over what's happening to our police officers. Marcus Hines, I understand will be back at duty soon, was in a major accident. At a Mardi Gras, a female officer was strangled, and I think she's okay and going to be back at work. And this last week at a Circle K that I frequently, an officer was punched, a female officer was punched in the face several times. That concerns me that wherever we are, we don't have respect for people in law enforcement. I know that I'm concerned about it. I've spoken to police people about it, also to Chief Smith. Front of my paper on the other side has those people, but I think we need to really realize that they are in danger at times and that should get respect. And I know I take a great deal of time to wave at police officers when I see them and thank them. And I hope that we can somehow help get more respect for those people that just recently have suffered injury doing their job. Thank you.
Lieutenant Bowman. Can you come up front? Lieutenant Bowman. Lieutenant Bowman. Chief Smith. Oftentimes, I know things are not publicized, but I just want you to verify for the record that we did call to check on those officers, at the same time respecting their privacy for what it is that they have been going through, and did offer our support. So I'd just like for you to confirm that for the record.
That is correct. I personally called and talked with each one of them personally, offered whatever support that they needed in the form of anything to haste their recovery and to get them back to work.
Not to mention a whole lot pledge for Marcus Hines, as well as the other female that Lieutenant Bowman and I were discussing, was it male or female, who was hurt. Speaking with Councilman Jackson, Councilman Bowman, talking to Councilman Brooks on things that were occurring with our officers, and offered any help that we could possibly give. I just want to verify that for the record.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, correct. Thank you. We appreciate your support.
And let me also publicly thank members of the community that when events such as this occurred, either come to our rescue, perform a barricade, call 911 for help. But thank you so much for whatever you've done to give us support during our difficult times.
Thank you. Kenneth Kreff.
Thank you, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. Ken Krepp, 157 Archer Avenue. Could I have a clock so I can know when I'm running out like we used to? Or just maybe at 15 seconds, raise your hand.
It's right there, Mr. Krepp.
Okay, I'm going to start out light and then get serious. We had a city marshal forum on Mardi Gras evening. Mr. Butcher and the other candidates attended. And the first speaker was Pam Barker with the Keystone Learning Academy. It's about dyslexia, the old Arthur Circle. And it's true that my Asperger's anagramming brain kicked in, and when I was asked, Ken, what do you think about dyslexia? I reflexively said, daily sex, which is an anagram. So, but really, seriously, this is the end of Black History Month, and at the end I'll close. Now, public safety, we'll get a committee meeting soon, I hope, Mr. Chairman. I do hope the new police headquarters is built to withstand a tornado. It can be up-engineered for about 2% extra to be F5 tornado-proof. I don't know if we're doing that. We need a raise for police and fire. I come once every 3 months. I hope it doesn't take 18 appearances over 4.5 years, as it did for the last 13%, granted 13 months ago, and first given in February of 2022. I'll be back in May and August and November. Hopefully the sales tax will continue strong with inflation. We hit almost 16 million in January for the December sales, an all-time record. We're 131 short with 15 in the academy. As Mr. Settle said, there have been some attacks, very unfortunate. They have to know that we have their back. And Ms. Taylor, I'll still remember what you said to Ben Raymond 2 years ago this month. I will do everything I can to help you, quote. But we can probably give a raise for 2023. I don't think it can be as high as 13. I think it has to be in the 8 to 10 range. I don't think we can also afford to do all the other city employees, although that may be the wish of the council. And looking ahead, there's a capital project left over from the bond issue of April 2nd of 2011. So it's almost 12 years, called Knight Street Paving, 11C002. Fortunately, we've acquired, according to Mr. Statlander, all the easement, servitudes, parcels, rights of way. But when we bid it again, let's not be surprised with concrete being 33% more than a year ago and 46% more than at the time the prior council added money. Because remember, Knight Street went to bid. It came in way high. We added a big bunch of money. We're going to have to do that again, unfortunately, because the concrete prices have just soared, and steel and labor. But at least we have the rights of way. And the final thing I want to close with is the last few sentences, the public statements of Dr. King, who'd been warned by the FBI that the Klan was trying to kill him. By the way, they tried in Tampa in January '68. Thank God the rifle jammed, and he had a few more weeks to live. But this is what he said at the Bishop Freeman Temple. Then we got into Memphis, and some began to say the threats, to talk about the threats that were out. What might happen to me from some of our sick white brothers? Well, I don't know what will happen to me now. We've got difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now. And I don't mind. I just want to do God's will. And he allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I looked over, and I saw the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Thank you, Dr. King.
Thank you,
Mr. Kraft. Mr. Kraft,
Yes, sir.
I hate to impose on you, but would you be kind enough to come back tomorrow and do that reciting?
Yeah, the whole speech takes 11 minutes.
Would you come back Tomorrow.
But I can do the little piece that
Do
takes
11
1 minute.
minutes. Do the
If
11
I'm your
minutes.
guest, I'll do as much
You'll
if
be-
I have a dream as you like.
You'll be my guest.
There's a good version that takes 4 minutes that really captures the essential. And remember, August 28th this year, be 60 years
Thank you.
since he gave that speech.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Amen. Marvin Muhammad. No Marvin Muhammad? That concludes public comments.
Thank you. We do not have any executive appointments tomorrow. There are no consent agenda items for introduction to be adopted. Mr. Dork, would you proceed with regular agenda legislation, please?
Yes, sir. 166 of 2021 is postponed until March 28th, so 2 council meetings away. Resolution 24 authorizes an acceptance of an active donation between the city and Esplanade Properties for some water and sewer mains in a new subdivision. These have been installed to city standards, and this just allows us to bring them into our system. 25 authorizes the mayor to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the cities of Ruston and Monroe and Vicksburg, Mississippi, relative to the application we're doing for grant funding for something that may yet someday bring us Amtrak service here. 26 and 27 are resolutions that the chairman has sponsored. 26 honors Roy Griggs for his contributions and leadership, and 27 honors, I know him as Larry Anderson because that's what I remember him as a football player, for his service to not just sports, but to Caddo Parish and to the educational system in the parish. Let's see, 28 is Ms. Bowman's that requests the DMV to put a satellite location in District G in the general area of Pines and Financial Plaza. That's been discussed previously. 29 and 30 accept public dedications of various streets and rights-of-ways, 29 in Long Lake Unit 7 and 30 in St. Andrews Subdivision Unit 3. I believe 29 may be in Mr. Jackson's district, and 30 in Mr. Butcher's. It's kind of a close call there. And then 31 is Mr. Talafero's resolution relative to the moratorium on the citation of citations issued in the school zone speed camera program.
Are there any questions or comments on any of those items? Thank you. Mr. Dork, would you proceed with introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to March 14, 2023?
Yes, sir. We only have one. It's Resolution 32, which authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for parking system management with DDA. This is something they've done for a number of years. Their contract expired at the end of the year, and we are extending it for 3 years with your approval, with an option for 3 additional years. The funds are already budgeted to do this.
Any questions on that item?
Yeah, do these funds, where do they go to when the monies are received? Do they go back to the police department?
There is an enterprise fund for downtown parking. Basically, it generates a little extra money every year over and above what we pay for the service, and it's being accumulated in hopes that at some point there'll be additional parking improvements in downtown. It does not go to the police department.
Any other questions? Mr. Dork, would you proceed with introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to March 14th?
Yes, sir. Ordinance 18 amends the general fund budget, and 18 and 19 actually mostly go together. But what we're doing is we're appropriating the general fund money that's going to be used for a project that's going to repair the building that Ms. Moore's staff is in at 401 Texas. It had a really bad water leak. Insurance is paying for part of that. Our general fund money is going to pay for the rest. We have a project that's ongoing with us in Caddo Parish to waterproof the windows in this building. Parish actually did the bids. We're going to be, if you approve this, providing the funds for our floors of the building. And then there's also $72,000 in that particular ordinance to repair the HVAC system at Central Fire Station. 19 is the capital budget amendment that provides the money, or provides a place to put the money we just talked about in general fund for the 401 Texas project and for the waterproofing project for the building. 20 is an amendment that we did. This actually receives the money that Public Service Commissioner Campbell was here last time for the streetlight program on the Parkway. 21 is an amendment to the ordinance relative to the school zone speed zonation to take the $50 payment away requirement. There have been a lot of people who've complained about that. The Blue Line people have told us it's pretty much an annoyance for them to have to keep the checks. So this will make appealing free, which we think is a good idea.
Any questions or comments on any of these items? Mr. Dark, would you proceed with ordinance on second reading and final passage?
Yes, sir. Amendment 4 is the riverfront development budget. We've had, this one's kind of been around for a while. Just be aware that amendment number 1, that's what you'll be asked to vote on tomorrow, ends up not touching any of the salary money that was originally budgeted in the economic development department, part of riverfront. All we're doing, if this ordinance passes as amended, the only thing we'll be doing is funding the Oakland Cemetery Monument and funding an additional $25,000 for the Northwest Louisiana Economic Partnership, and we're doing that out of the reserve of that fund without touching any of the salary money. Ordinance 9 amends the community development budget. This is one of those, you all had given a great deal of thought last year toward funding some community groups, and the funding did not get done before the end of the year, so none of those groups were going to get anything unless we came back and amended the community development budget to make that happen. Let's see. Ordinance 10 is the general fund budget that actually funds that money that's going to community development. It's like $220-something thousand. 11 amends the community development budget to fund the last little bit of Caddo Parish's portion of the guaranteed income program that was started last year and will finish up this year. We're going to ask you to withdraw ordinance 12. We're still not absolutely sure what's going to happen to the Sportran funding, but at least for right now, it's been kept as is, and there's no reason to keep this on the agenda, waiting to see what the Bossier Council might ultimately do. 14 is the zoning case 22-215, essentially the property in the general vicinity of the old Notre Dame School. This was, there's an amendment that the city attorney is providing that will provide you tomorrow, because the resolution title and the text of the resolution both say this zoning is from R15 to R3. The MPC only voted R2, so we need to fix that by amendment tomorrow. I believe the assistant city attorney's prepared that one, and it's actually showing up on the screen. Ordinance 13 declares our intention to seize 2 pieces of adjudicated property on Lexington Street that corrects an error that's been in the system for a long time, and now that the property's adjudicated, we can fix it without anybody having any consequence on it. Let's see, 15, case 22-236. This is property on Merrick near Roosevelt, from single family to commercial. This was for office space. It was approved at the February MPC meeting on a 4-3 vote. 16 is case 22-244, North Market near Arrow Drive, from industrial down to commercial. I believe there was some discussion last time. One of the proponents of that was actually here, I think, last time to ask any questions. This is down zoning, so the MPC doesn't have any problems with it. 17 is 22-269, piece of property near the intersection of Stoner and Uri Drive for an amusement facility. That's in Mr. Brooks' district and was passed 5-2 by the MPC back in February.
Are there any questions or comments on any of these items?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
ordinance 14, I'm postponing that, and to make the correction that is in Council District A.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on any of these items? Madam Clerk, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table today? Thank you. We have no property standards ABO appeal to consider today. We have no MPC or ZBA appeal to consider tomorrow. Are there any other appeals, Madam Clerk? Are there any reports from officers, boards, committee? Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report? Thank you. Thank you. We have the following candidates to be considered for Director of Council Affairs Madam Clerk, would you read their names and also put them in the line that they call them as they come up to do their interview?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we go over the procedure for today and request, if council members agree, can we interview them one at a time with the rest remaining outside of chambers if nobody objects or have any thoughts to that process? That was a recommendation that came from several members of my district.
Okay.
So, for discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
With the vacated council clerk seat, I would really like for us to postpone this, if there's any possible way that we could do that. I know that the people are here today. I don't mind going through the interviews, but I'd like for us to get the clerk situation taken care of before we move any further with this. If that's okay with the rest of the council, instead of us voting on this, maybe we could do the interviews and then move from there.
All right. Any other comments? Councilman Jackson has asked that while one candidate is being interviewed, that the others would be outside. Is there any objections to that? No. Okay. Madam Clerk, who is the first interview?
Our first candidate is R.J. Johnson.
So we ask that the rest of you, if you would be kind enough to just step out, and we will call you when you're.
Before you leave, can you give them the entire order list so they'll be aware?
Give them the order that they will come in so they'll be aware.
After Mr. Johnson, we'll have Mr. Anthony Nation, and after Mr. Nation, we'll have Ms. Diana Thomas, and then we'll have Ms. Latasha Washington.
Thank you. So at this time, we have Mr. Johnson before us, and the house is open.
Mr. Johnson, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm R.J. Johnson. I am a native of Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a Shreveport transplant. Have been here for about 8 years, but totally invested in the Shreveport community. I'm a dual degree graduate of Louisiana State University with a bachelor's degree in political science and a bachelor's in sociology, as well as graduate of ULM with a master's of public administration with a concentration in public management, as well as Southern New Hampshire University with a master's of business administration with concentrations in finance and human resource management. And I'm currently a doctoral student in public policy at Southern Baton Rouge.
So, walk us through your resume. Now, hear about your educational background
Yes,
and
ma'am.
things that you have in that educational process, which is strong, well-versed. Walk us through your resume.
Sure. So my parents think I'm a professional student. But I like knowledge, and I believe in making sure that you know as much as you can know. So in addition to those degrees, I also have certifications in human resources and other areas as well. I currently serve as a director of accreditation for a multi-state healthcare company. In that role, I'm responsible for liaisoning with our federal and state departments of mental health, working with those departments. I work in the continuous quality improvement and risk management department, and so I'm always looking for opportunities to improve our systems, improve how we work, improve how we do things as a community and as a system for our healthcare patients. Additionally, I served as Chief Compliance Officer for a behavioral management company. I'm a forensic counselor as well by trade. So I have worked in a number of areas from maintaining our billing to maintaining medical records to being liaison with our insurance companies and our constituents, working with our juvenile court system as well for folks that we've had in that system. One thing you don't actually see on the resume is I've actually worked for the Baton Rouge City Council as a legislative assistant. I kind of took just the past 10 years because all that other stuff, it's a long time. But worked for the Baton Rouge City Council. I did share with you all in my application package some of the work that I did in that role that fits this role. as a director of council affairs, from managing our neighborhood improvement councils to doing the newsletters there to managing our television and radio show that was on our public access channel for the city of Baton Rouge. So I have a lot of varying experiences that allowed me to hit the ground running in this role. I've been in both paid and professional public policy roles that I understand legislation. I understand public meetings laws. I've actually done parliament procedure training for our parish commission and worked on a number of boards and commissions for them as well. So very familiar with municipal government. I've been trained to do that by ULM in that public management department, as well as I'm a certified emergency response person through FEMA and working with those departments as well. So I can respond to any and everything that may come before the council and help you guys out as much as I can.
Mr. Chair. So for the record, I'm definitely not in postponing this position. I've been a champion for this position since I authored the legislation. I do feel like the clerk position is important, but I feel like this position is just as important or even more so from my opinion. So I wanted to state that for the record. Also, it's been a lot of confusion about what this position was designed to do. I've heard everything. I wanted to clarify a couple of things. This position is not designed to be a buffer between me and my constituent. I want to be on the first line. I want to get all the communications that I'm getting now. However, this position is designed to create literature that we can disseminate to our constituents in a user-friendly format in which they can understand exactly what council members are doing on a daily basis in order to improve their overall quality of life. So with that being said, do you have any skill sets on creating brochures, newsletters, any type of communication that's coming directly from council? And the reason that's important to me, I don't want to rely on any type of media source to tell our story. I want that communication to be able to come directly from council, factual information that they can read and share in order to continue to get that communication out.
Absolutely, Councilman Jackson. As I shared with you guys in my application packet, I don't know if they came from HR to you, but that included a newsletter, a copy of that newsletter that I did for the previous council people that I worked for in Baton Rouge, which I worked for 2 different council persons. So as I said, I was responsible for not only their newsletters, but also sending communications out with their neighborhood advisory teams as well, and working with them to provide that information, as well as producing their television show that they did on a monthly basis. So absolutely have that capacity to be able to produce newsletters and other communications for the council. I've done that in many roles, both paid and unpaid, in the positions that I've held previously.
And last question for me. I'm not sure if you can speak up on the makeup of party-wise of that group, but how was it working with a diverse council from various different parties, various different races? Can you speak to your level of that?
Absolutely. That council was a 6-6, 12-member council. Each of the council members had their own legislative assistant that we had to work with, in addition to all of our city boards and commissions, working for 2 different council people that definitely had different personalities. Working with all 12 had different personalities. In my mind, I'm looking for an opportunity to, one, learn how you work, learn how you prioritize things as council members, and make sure that I use that as my approach to helping you guys to serve the mission that you're intended to do as a council. Everybody has their own priorities, and so my priority would be to learn what that priority is for you, learn what that priority is for each of the districts and those constituents, and be able to respond to those in appropriate and timely manner.
Okay, you kind of answered the question I was going to ask. The main thing is the multitasking, because you have 7 different council members with 7 different personalities.
Yes.
I'm petty and needy.
Yes.
So how would you handle this situation?
One of the things that I believe you have to be open and honest and understanding, again, what the priorities for the council are. As I appreciate the way that the resolution was written was to, listen to the council's vision and communicate that vision. I think it's important to know for anybody in this position that you're going to have different varied priorities. And the response to that would be to understand what your timeline is for getting that done, what your priority is for getting that done, and to be communicative with all council members, providing a report to them, as I shared with you in the package that I sent of previous work is to understand again that provide a weekly report so you know what's going on in the council and letting me know what you want to know. So there's not an information overload, so that we share information. And so the citizens who may not be in favor of this position will know that not only do they have a council person as an advocate for them, they also have a director of council affairs who's advocating for those things. Look at it as an opportunity to be an ombudsman and a public advocate, and working alongside you all and working alongside our constituents to get the things that they want to get done. So I believe in transparency, accountability, and making sure that we prioritize things so we're all clear on where we're going. And I think that by establishing a relationship with each one of you, we'll be able to do that and have a good relationship to make sure we're able to meet the needs of our citizens.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson.
Good
Thank you so
afternoon,
much. We
Councilman.
have met when I was part of the commission.
Yes,
and I
sir.
appreciate everything that you do for us over there. Just a couple of clarifications on your professional experience.
Yes.
You're the director of accreditation, multiple state healthcare organizations. Is that the name of
That
the
is
organization?
not the name of the organization. The name of the organization is Brightly.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
I
sir.
remember from the commission.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Good deal. A couple of things, a lot of times we are in the business of conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
Let me speak a little bit clearer here. Conflict resolution. But I'm also interested in philosophy, especially in philosophy of government. So I would like to know your philosophy on what the proper role of government is.
I believe the proper role of government is to provide a safe environment, a way for our people to be to expand, a way for our folks to come together. Government shouldn't overstep, but government should be there to help its people and to put them in a better job to compete in our globalizing world. And I'm hopeful that in this role, we will be able to better our streets, better our community safety, and give our citizens something to be proud of in this city. I know a lot of people are wary of this role, but it is my hope that being able to be in this role and working with you all, we will be able to show the citizens that it's needed, and it will be money well spent.
Thank you. And I have another question. We talked about, I briefly touched on conflict resolution. There may be times you would be working with 7 different personalities, all, I would say most of us have the same goals and objectives. That's to move Shreveport into a safer environment, a more prosperous environment. But there may be times when we have differences of philosophy and or a difference of requests that may come across your desk. And I would just like to know, how would you approach that? In other words, if you clearly see that Councilman Taylor or myself or Councilman Bowen or myself, there's a conflict, even though we may be coming at things a little bit differently. I'd like to know how you plan on, maybe resolving something like that.
Sure, Councilman, Commissioner, I get them. I'm still trying to get used to that.
Starting
But as
to
you know, working with the commission with 12 different personalities there and the roles that I've served in with the commission, I've always been about collaboration. I've always been about trying to find a middle ground, and I think that's something particularly that we work towards as a commission to find the best, or the council, is to find the best solution that is going to benefit the most people. You all represent different districts and you all have different personalities in that regard, but I think, as you just said, this council wants the best for our city. And so I want to make sure that I'm able to kind of, if I need to be a mediator, if I need to be a counselor, if I need to be a listener, to try to find a common solution that we can all be proud of. We're not going to always agree, but if we're open to having open communication, honest communication, transparency and accountability amongst ourselves, I think we can all get to the best goal on behalf of the city.
And thank you. And one final question. So why does this particular position interest you?
So that's a funny question. A lot of people will say it's funny because I'm a nerd, and I like doing this stuff, and I do a lot of these types of things for free. And all the organizations I work in all of the organizations I serve on boards for, this is something that I believe that I could truly contribute to with the level of education, experience, and knowledge that I have. For me, it may be fun. I'm hoping that the 7 of you will make it fun.
I hope it
I am so hoping that the 7 of you will make it fun. But I think for us as a community, I want to see our community do better. And something that you've heard me talk about is serving on the Juvenile Justice Committee for the parish. I'm doing my dissertation research on our juvenile justice system and how we improve systems in Caddo Parish. And so it's important for me, someone who has worked internationally, worked for the United Nations, and have made my home here, to make it the best possible place that it can be. And so I'm hopeful through all of this that we will be able to do that, and this will be a community that hopefully I'll be able to raise my children in.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone? Yes, sir. Mr. Brooks.
The Chief Compliance Officer, Behavioral Management Organization?
Yes,
What is
sir.
the name of that company?
Seedlings.
Seedlings?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you give me briefly your computer background experience?
Which part? I am very computer literate, computer savvy. I design forms, websites, newsletters, literature, brochures. I do posters, flyers. I can edit videos. I'm pretty proficient in Microsoft Office, Word. My classmates in my doctoral program kind of depend on me to teach them new systems. So I'm very familiar with almost anything. And if I don't know it, as you can see, I try to find a degree or a certification to help me know it. So
Okay.
pretty fast learner.
This, what city council was it that you worked for?
Baton Rouge.
Baton
The
Rouge,
Baton
and there
Rouge
was
Metro
12
Council.
council members?
There were 12, yes, sir.
Did you work for all 12 of them, or just
No,
one?
sir, I worked for 2.
2?
Yes.
Okay.
But I worked with all 12.
And did you divide your time 50-50, or did it depend on what was on the agenda? Or?
Well, no, actually, everyone got this. I worked for 2 different council people at 2 different times, so one
Oh,
at
so
a
you worked
time.
with one at a time?
Yes, sir, one at a time.
Okay, well, this is very different.
It is. It is very different. However, because you work with all 12, again, you work with all 12 legislative assistants work with each other. So if I did something in my office, it was often that I shared that with them in their offices, and we worked together on those various initiatives.
Right, but still your focus was just to represent your council, the person for your district that you were working with.
Correct, but you also have to have 7 votes to get anything done.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
This position, how do you see dividing your time among 7?
Well, I work in various capacities right now. So in those efforts, I work for an interdepartmental team. And again, it's about prioritizing what's important. You may need a meeting or information developed for a meeting that may be 2 weeks off versus somebody needing something within 48 hours. It's simply prioritizing it and having a conversation with you about what's your timeline for getting this completed. I believe in timelines. I believe in making sure that the expectation is clear. So I will certainly have conversations with each of you to make sure that there was clarity in what you needed from me and how you needed me to divide that time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for coming in today, sir.
Thank you
One
for
more
your
thing.
consideration.
Before you leave, Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
we will ask everybody just to kind of give the last minute thing, anything you want to say, why you feel like you're the best candidate.
Sure. I'm excited for the opportunity and just to be considered. You have a lot of good candidates that you have to choose from, and so it would be an honor to serve with you. It would be an honor to serve alongside you. It would be an honor to serve the city of Shreveport in this capacity. I, again, have served in a number of capacities and will continue to support this community, whether chosen or not, but I think that my experience as well as my education provide and previous experience with the city council actually make me uniquely qualified for this role. And so I'm hopeful that you will choose me, but if you choose not to, I wish you all of the best and look forward to working with all of you in whatever capacity to move our city forward. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to thank you for taking out the time to consider. This could be a model as to you. I've always talked about Baton Rouge having legislative assistants. This could be a model for our city, that this is what the next council possibly need, is to have a legislative assistant to be able to assist that doesn't cross the line of you being elected,
Right.
but it just assists you in getting your vision and your dream done for your district and for your city. So thank you. You have a wealth of information, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Chairman Green. Thank you, council members.
Next, we will have Mr. Nations.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Nation. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am the immediate past president of the Cattle Parish School Board. Served on that body for 4 years, and we met a lot of challenges, including a pandemic, to ensure a good education for our children of our school system. I also served as the lead chaplain of Oxnard LSU Medical Center for several years. I had the privilege of ministering to hundreds of families in their time of need, and I pastor a church part-time. I'm presently the bereavement coordinator for St. Joseph Hospice, our Shreveport office. A family that's from here, my wife works for Willis Knighton out of the Oaks. My son owns a local brewery, maybe you've heard of it, Great Raft. Just had a new grandbaby born. I haven't got to see her yet. She was a preemie, but we're looking forward to that. But nearly had the seat that Mr. Jackson occupies right now. I came very close to that. But be that as it may, when I heard about this position, I knew that I was uniquely qualified in many respects to assume those types of duties. I've read the job description in detail, and I do believe on day one I would be job ready in many respects to handle the responsibilities that this position would entail. I love this town. I've been a resident for Shreveport for 40-something years. I've served in many capacities and in community life, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve in this position should I be selected. Be more than willing to answer any questions you may have as far as why I think I'm the best qualified person for this job. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to speak with you this afternoon.
Thank you. So walk us through your resume.
Much of my life, adult life, has been concentrated in church work and ministry. As I mentioned, I'm a part-time pastor of a church out on Burt Coons. I've been there 10.5 years. But before that, I was a youth director, senior adult director, associate pastor, minister of education, those types of church staff duties. Enjoyed that very much. Have a degree from a master's in education from Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth, Texas. Did some doctoral work as well with the New Orleans Seminary as well as the University of Phoenix. As I mentioned, I served the LSU Oxnard and its different iterations over the years, University of Health, and before that LSU Med Center for several years as chaplain. The last 6 of my 14 were I was the lead chaplain there. And as you know, that hospital is a level 1 trauma center. We got all the bad stuff, and I was on the front lines of those traumas more than I can recall. But I ministered to literally thousands of patients and their family members over the years in meeting needs, and I think that kind of experience qualifies me to meet people where they are and to hear them, not to respond, but to hear them to understand. And with constituents' concerns being very important, I think that I could hear what they have to say, and then I've already started formulating in my mind some plans of action on how to address those concerns in cooperation with you, of course, and how you'd prefer that to be handled, and then go about meeting those needs and getting back to that constituent and say, this is what's going to be done by this date, hopefully to your satisfaction, and get this problem, whatever it may be, resolved. And it really doesn't matter what your council district is and what neighborhood you live in. Everybody deserves city services in an equal amount and equal degree. And whoever you are and you work for the city, if you receive a paycheck from the city, you're kind of employees of our citizens. And so they deserve diligence and excellence in what we do, whatever your job description may be, because it's that important. I served that same way when I was on the Cattle Parish School Board, especially my last year when I was the president of the board. Constituents would come to me with a concern of any number of different sort of categories or reasons why they had an issue, and either I solved that problem or I got them to somebody who could solve their problem, hopefully in a timely and effective manner. And you ask constituents, you ask fellow board members what kind of guy Tony Nations is, and they'll tell you he's cooperative, he's agreeable, he gets things done with a mutually beneficial goal in mind for everybody. I enjoy helping people. I've been doing my whole adult life, and I'm one of those words we don't use very often, deferential. How can I help you? I want to hear your concern before I voice my own. That's the kind of attitude I have with everybody that I come across. How can I help you? And that's not just a word, that's a sincere admonition on my part to see how I can help them, whether it be a church member, a school board constituent, anybody I work with at the hospice or the hospital before that. I'm all about helping folks. And this position, boy, would you be in a position to help folks. Fair or not, accurate or not, many city officials have the persona of that they're hard to get a hold of, or they're out of touch, or aloof in some cases. I'm not saying that's accurate or fair. I'm just saying it's a perception amongst many of the citizenry, and this position would be a great person to kind of manage some of that, and to be really honest with you, help you look good. It really would, and I'm all about that, and I'll be more than willing to entertain any questions you may have, Ms. Taylor or Ms. Reverend Green, anybody else for that matter.
Jackson.
Mr. Jackson, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we know each other well.
We do.
Good seeing you. So first and foremost, I want to kind of repeat what I've said for others. I am a champion for this position. You know, this is my legislation, so I don't feel like we need to wait. I feel like this position is just as important as us hiring a clerk as well. That's how passionate I am about this position. You being here makes me smile because it also shows that this position is needed. You know, I've had some mixed reviews. Some people say it's not needed, some people say that it is. So you being here, running from the same district as I was, that definitely makes me smile. However, because this position received a lot of mixed reviews, it's not going to be an easy decision for me. I have to make sure that we choose the best person because this has to work. A lot is riding on that. So my question to you, a lot of people were confused that this was going to be a liaison or a buffer between my citizens and myself. That's not what it's designed to do. It's not to intervene or take phone calls on our behalf. We're still, all 7 council members have agreed we want to be on the front lines. We want to be able to make sure our voice is heard directly from us to our constituents. So you won't be speaking for us. However, you will be serving in a background role to make sure that we have all of the information, the data, the literature created in a format in which we can share with our constituents. That's the most important thing. A lot of our citizens are misinformed through media sources, or they just don't have the information at all. So what is your level of being able to create documentations for his newsletters, graphic designs, or any type of communication piece in order to help get our message out there from the council level?
Well, I learned a long time ago. I have 20 plus years in youth ministry, and I figured out a long time ago, especially with parents of youth, and it applies to really any group of people, an informed group of people is a cooperative group of people. Let them know what the heck's going on. You know, you can't expect their cooperation if they're kept in the dark. And so I think all of you would agree with that belief. I have many years of newsletter experience working on the church staff, either producing the whole document myself or writing articles for it. I can see a newsletter, how often you want it to go out. We would work that out, and what format it would go out. But a letter from each council person, as well as a highlight of different things that you're working on or things that you're addressing, constituent concerns. That would go out again on a monthly, quarterly basis, whatever you choose to do, and have that done in a professional, sharp, good-looking document that we'll be proud to produce, and not just something that we mimeograph off and send out in bulk. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's do it well. Let's do it with excellence. And so I have quite a bit of experience in producing newsletters and those kinds of things. So in answer to that question, I think I can handle that pretty well, and I look forward to that opportunity. So.
One last question. Working with a diverse group, not only with race, but also with across party lines, how would you handle working with all 7 of us?
Well, I think how that would look would differ slightly with each of you, because you have different personalities. The way you go about doing things would be slightly different. So I would certainly, any concerns that come to me, I would say, how would you prefer I handle this? And again, it may be slightly different for each of you, and then go about doing it exactly as you would prefer. Some of you may be more hands-on. Others say, well, you can handle this for me. Again, it's your preference, because you're the council person. And to have 7 bosses, I've been asked, are you nuts? Why would you even consider that? No, I have not lost track of my senses. I think it'd be a great opportunity, because I don't know if you've done much study about birth order, but firstborn kids, which I am one, are people pleasers. That's just what we do. How can I help you? How can I follow the rules, stay in line, and get things done? It's a worthy time of your reading about birth order and what those different children, middle child, only child, youngest child, it's all an important study, but firstborns tend to be people pleasers, and that's what I go about doing when I wake up every day, is how can I help you? So that being said, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Also, before I forget, make sure you tell Gary I said hello.
Yes.
But my question is, and it brings a breath of fresh air that you're here, by having been elected before, how would a position like this would have helped your job that you did on the school board to be better?
You ask anybody, I don't really care who you ask, anybody who was on the board or is on the school board now, ask them about Tony Nations. I'm not scared of what you're going to find out.
No. My question is, if you had a person like what you
I got you.
How would it have helped you to do your job more efficient?
I think this type of position would have been very helpful on the school board. I tend to be more hands-on when my interaction with constituents. They had my email, they had my phone number, call me all times of the day or night. I didn't mind, and I would try to get their question answered or direct them to someone who could answer it. But having someone who is whether you want to call them a lead person or a manager, I know. Dr. Jackson preferred not to use the word liaison, but in some ways you're acting in that way, in a certain way, because as I mentioned earlier, and I don't backtrack from this, to help you look good, and not just help you look good, but help you to be more effective. I don't think all of you want to be effective with your constituents, and that's a challenge sometimes, because you have 19,000 voters in each of your districts. That's a tall order, and you got to be all things to all people, and that's tough. But to have somebody who's working for you and helping grease the machinery so it moves a little quicker, a little more efficiently, I think that would benefit everyone. But back to what I was saying earlier, ask anybody who's worked with me, and they'll tell you I work with anybody and everybody to get things accomplished. Ask Dottie Bell, ask Mary Trammell, ask Dr. Vincent or Dr. Dozart. All of those folks on the board, they'll tell you exactly how easy I am to work with and how I get things done. So,
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Someone else?
Mr. Chair, thank
Yes,
you.
I'm going to ask you, excuse me, Mr. Nations, I'm going to ask you the same things that I asked the other candidate.
Okay.
And I'll ask the next candidate the same because I want everybody to get the same shot at the same, questions. I'm all about philosophy.
Mhm.
I like to know people's philosophy, my fellow council members as well. So tell me your philosophy on what's the proper role of government and where does that philosophy come from?
I'm sure all of you have heard that statement before, and it's almost a laugher. I'm from the government. I'm here to help you, and people recognize that as silly because that's not the response they usually get. But as I mentioned earlier, anybody who receives a government check, I don't care if you're a city employee, state, federal, whoever, you're an employee of your constituents, of your voters, of the citizens of that municipality, wherever it may be, and you have an obligation to be a public servant. I'm all about that particular title. You're a servant to the public. And again, whatever your job description may be, it doesn't mean that you're subject to the whims of any particular citizen, but in general, you're to see how can I help those that put me in where I am. Whether they voted me in office or I was appointed to that office, whatever the case may be, how can I meet their needs? Because as someone said during the mayoral campaign, it's about customer service. Our citizens are our customers, and they deserve due diligence, they deserve excellence, they deserve to be treated with respect and with fairness and with a timely use of their because it's their money. It's not our money, it's their money. Again, whether you're a school board representative or a city council person, a commissioner, whoever you are, it's the public's money. We're managers of that, and we should do it well.
Thank you. Second, that I think you've answered this because of your mentoring, your consoling background. But I just want to hear it again. Is
Okay.
that there's 7 of us up here, unlike 12 in the commission, and we're I'm mainly interested in if there's a conflict. That happens to develop between one or more of us and you feel maybe uneasy. How do you go about resolving that uneasiness, I guess?
You sit down and you talk. Don't do it over the media. Sit down and talk with that person. Have enough respect for that person to say, I have an issue here. And I understand we may be on different sides of this issue. How can we discuss that in a rational, respectful manner and hopefully work out a solution that's beneficial to everybody? I'm not saying that's always achievable, but it ought to be your goal is to come at it with a sense of I think we can get there. How can we get there? How can we maybe give a little bit either way without going against our principles? And so how can we cooperate to get, and you got to look at the end game. Who's going to benefit the most of getting a conflict resolved? Most likely it's going to be the citizens. And if you can get your differences worked out, it's be the citizens going to benefit from that. And I'm not a confrontation. I tend to avoid confrontation if I can. I'm averse to getting in the middle of somebody's face. I just don't do that. This is not my nature. I like to again defer, if at all possible, to what. Let me hear your opinion first. Let me hear your agenda first. What is your desire on this particular topic? And let me hear what they have to say, and not dismiss it. It's not lip service. You really want to know what they have to say, and you're going to take that into consideration. So I'm all about that. So.
Almost sounds biblical, doesn't it? Okay, it is. And one final question: why does this particular position interest you, Tony Nations?
As I said, and hopefully it doesn't come across as sour grapes at all, but I was nearly in the seat that Mr. Jackson holds, and to say it hurts a little bit, it does. Led the runoff against 2 strong candidates, and they came up a little short on the runoff. But the night we were at Christmas in the Sky. The night of the runoff. I had never been to that particular event before. It was a little bit overwhelming, to be honest with you. And so the early voting came in, and it was a heavy Democratic turnout for that, and we split the vote. We're looking good here. And then when the final tally came in, we were about 250 votes short. And I'm walking around in sort of a daze, to be honest with you. And who do I walk in and see but Mr. Jackson over there, Dr. Jackson. And he was gracious enough, and I walked over to him and I said, "Congratulations." And he says, "Thank you very much, I appreciate that. You know, I think Shreveport needs both of us." And I think he's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
That was a good answer. I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Is that a legal contract?
The same two.
Yeah, so maybe I won't have any opposition in 4 years.
Maybe not. I'm thinking about.
That's a long way off, buddy.
Tony, Mr. Nations, same two questions from me. I'd like to know some of your background with your computer skills.
My computer skills.
Yes.
I am not the Excel spreadsheet guru that my wife is. She's amazing. But I can work my way around a computer. I use a computer all day, every day in my job with our software and all the things that are required. We have a program called Home Care Home Base that helps us keep track of all of our bereaved contacts and the patients that they, whether it be the surviving spouse or the little brother or the aunt, whoever it may be. And it's a lot of information that we have to navigate there in order to satisfy our compliance laws with Medicare and whatnot. But whether it be Word or Excel and things like that, I'm pretty good, and even desktop publishing kind of programs, I'm pretty well versed in those kind of things.
Okay. Second question, there's 7 of us. How do you see dividing your time among, because you would technically be working for all 7 of us?
Maybe you've heard the expression, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," but all kidding aside, it would be a fairly monumental task, I think. But I think I'm up for it. I've never shied away from a challenge. Again, how the relationship for this position with each of you council members would be a little bit different for each of you, because you're all unique individuals. You don't do things the same way. And that would take a time of getting used to each other, figuring out how you operate, whether, again, you want to be more hands-on, or whether you want to sit back and let this position maybe take the lead on certain points, certain topics, certain issues, and go from there. It would be a matter of meeting all of you and spending time with you in a real constructive, lengthy way at times to find out where you're at. And then also getting to know all the department heads and those who get things done on the city staff, spending time with the mayor, of course, and his staff. But it would be a monumental task. I'll just be perfectly blunt with you. But I am up for the challenge, I promise you.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask you my last question.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Nation, thank you. And I watch you on the school board, and I watch you throughout the community. If you were up here and this position was coming available, would you delay it?
Selfishly, I would not, to be honest, to be perfectly blunt with you. I think that the citizens of Shreveport would like more efficient, more effective service. And again, whether it's fair or not, whether it's accurate or not, that's perception that I hear, and a lot of people hear. I think things could be better, and what that looks like is up for discussion, up for debate. But I think government should do all it can to serve its citizens, because, like I said earlier, it's their money that we're spending, and we need to do that very carefully. But I think we need to move with pretty good haste on this, and I know the council clerk, this position would report to them as well, whoever that may be. But I look forward to working with anybody and everybody, and you're going to find me to be very agreeable to whoever that person may be. So,
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Nation.
Thank you, sir.
well, I thank you for your time, and I would appreciate your support. Thanks so
Nation,
much.
one last thing. Can you, Mr. Nation, excuse me, one last thing.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Your last comments on why you're the best candidate for this position.
Well, I actually prepared a statement. I'll read a small portion of that. I believe my experience as a Cattle Parish School Board member and an immediate past president of that body as well as a pastor and a hospital chaplain, I am in a unique position to hear constituent concerns and then devise a course of action in order to, along cooperation with you, of course, to meet those concerns in a timely and effective manner. I've got a track record, you can look, of being responsive to constituents, having their problems solved myself, or putting them in contact with someone who can solve their problems, because the city citizens are our boss, like it or not. That's the way it is, and that's the way we should approach it.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, is it Dr. Nation? I saw you was in school for your doctorate degree. I always like this.
I'm about that close from my EDD.
Okay.
We're not going to go there right now, but I did the work, but it's a long story. We'll talk about it sometime.
Okay. Well,
not quite there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Hello. Thomas, give you about 30 seconds. Good evening, Ms. Thomas.
Good evening.
Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Diana Thomas, and my father was in the Army. I'm a military brat. I've been to a couple of places such as Germany, Alaska, San Antonio, and this is my mother's home, but California is my father's home, and that's where I was born. And I came back to Shreveport and attended college. Went to Centenary, had a double major. I did that in 3 years, and I was going to go back to California, but I fell in love and got married. And my husband's name is Bobo Thomas. He played basketball at Centenary. And then at that time in the 80s, there weren't a lot of jobs, so I had planned on going back to California, but somebody talked me into applying at the city to be a jailer. So I did that, and I did that for a year, and then somebody talked me into being a police officer. So I did that. While being a police officer, I was fortunate to go to many different divisions. I was an academy instructor for 3 years, bicycle instructor downtown for 3 years. While there, I worked with Weed and Seed. It's a program to weed out the criminals and seed in positive things for the community. On Saturdays, on my time off, me and another officer would pick up prisoners, and in Highland, we would, misdemeanor prisoners would pick trash up along the Highland streets because Weed and Seed was in Highland at that time. And so I did that, and then after that, a captain asked me to be his community liaison officer. So I did that for 6 years, and that is the type of job where if the mayor or city council had any type of complaint, we would go out and investigate the complaint. A lot of times it wasn't a police issue, it could be public works, traffic engineer, streets and drainage. It didn't matter. We would just go out. I would go out and investigate.
many would just pick the phone up and call to see what the issue was. But being in uniform, I was able to go out to the citizen's house and they would tell me what it was. And if it's not a police issue, then I would pick up the phone to whatever department that citizen had, whether it was, like I said, streets and drainage, traffic engineer, sanitation. And I would make sure that problem was taken care of, each and individually. As you see on the first page, I proud myself in helping solve a lot of issues in Shreveport, especially the M.L. King area. If you remember, Reginald Davis was shot. It was a street off of Ford Street. Well, that heightened the community because they felt that it was a shooting that was unnecessary. But when Marquette Husband was shot, then it became a big uproar. And I attended many town hall meetings, many community meetings, trying to solve and calm the community down. And with that being said, Mayor Hightower asked our chief to resign because he felt that he wasn't in tune to the community. And it wasn't an open door. The police wasn't transparent to the issues of the needs of the community. So with that being said, and also I became a police sergeant, so I left the community liaison, and even being a sergeant on patrol, people would call me for all kinds of problems, and I would still help them. I don't know if you remember Crenshaw. That was when 1,000 young adults would gather at Juella and Greenwood Road, and it was just clustered. And so I came up with an operational order where I was able to hire police officers, K-9, anybody that I thought we needed to infiltrate that section. And soon they finally dispersed. You mentioned Lakeshore and Portland. Got a call on that area where there was drugs, there was prostitution, there was shootings. So when I drove around, I saw that there was a need to clean that area up. So I hired 15 officers. I called SWEPCO to put more lightings in the area. I called, I think it was Public Works. They mowed the lawn. I talked to the guy at Sessions Hotel. I said, look, this hourly rate thing with the prostitutions, you're gonna have to do something different. And so I was able to clean that area up. And every time I drive by there, I smile because I know that I had a hand in that. And you may not remember when that was going on, but I like to just clean up the city of Shreveport, whether it's trash on the streets, dilapidated buildings, just whatever the issue or the problem is, you know, I like to tackle it. And I don't make phone calls. I go out to this area and I look and I get phone numbers. I say, look, if you say you're gonna cut this grass, it needs to be cut. And when are you gonna cut it? And I go back, make sure it's done. And whether it's whatever department, I'm on hands. And I try to make sure that it gets done. Then I go back and talk to the citizen. And I say, are you satisfied with the work? And most of the time they say yes. So that's a little bit about me. I can talk. I go on and on.
I think you told us a lot about you. You pretty much answered the second question that I have because you've actually walked through your resume, and so I know that you are the woman that is responsible for running former Council Bowman and I off the parking lot at Greenwood Road and Juella when we were cruising on Lakeshore, when we were cruising by McDonald's back in the
Okay.
day. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much, you and Steve. So I will turn it over to the next council member.
Now, Ms. Thomas, I don't want to make Chief Wayne Smith upset, because it sounds like he may need you more than we do. But no, I definitely appreciate your service and everything you have given to the city thus far.
Thank you.
I'm going to echo my comments that I've said to all the other candidates. I've been a champion for this position since day one. I definitely feel like it's needed. With that being said, it's a tough decision for me because I have to make sure that we choose the right person because this position has to succeed. With that being said, you've been on the front lines with communicating directly with the citizens. So this position won't be in direct communication with the citizens. We still want to be on the front lines. Our citizens have repeatedly voiced that they want to be in touch with their council person, and so we want to honor that. However, your job would be to create information and research data that we can push forward in a user and reader-friend format in order to inform our constituents of what we're currently doing, what we're planning on doing, and where we are within that process. What's your level of experience on creating newsletters, graphic designs, and brochures in order to be able to disseminate?
Well, first I would research the subject matter. I have a lot of experience in that. I've written two theses, one dissertation, and I would go to different libraries, do my homework, do my research in that particular subject matter, and then I would just go out and see what the need is, do a need analysis. When it comes to newsletters, media, I would just work it, just do the newsletter, where, who, what, where, when, why, how, and I would invite different agencies because it could not only be a police matter or a traffic engineering matter, it could be a matter that involves a lot of agencies. And so when it comes to newsletters, getting the word out, I know how to do that because I've done that before. There was a forum, and it was needed for the Marquette Hudspeth shooting because the community was in an uproar. So there were several pastors. Some have gone on to be with the Lord, but the pastors there's a church on every corner, and they would get involved, and they're instrumental in a lot of the decision making. And so I would contact every church that's in that area that need to be present or involved. So I have a little experience in that.
Thank you. And last question, how would you work with 7 different groups of people with various party lines and just various demographics? How would you work with all 7 of us?
Well, because I'm a military brat, I was raised with all races. I've had a Filipino best friend, Japanese best friend, white, black, you name it, just being little growing up. So we all were raised together. And so when it comes to races, I have no problems. When it comes to party lines, everybody have their own opinion and they have their own way of thinking, and surely in between we should be able to come together for the good and commonwealth of the citizens of the city of Shreveport, whether it's Cedar Grove or Spring Lake. We all need to work together.
Is there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
may.
sir.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
it's good seeing you again.
Thank
We
you.
go
You
way back,
too.
and I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to serve alongside you. We've had some good times together, pounding the streets together. So I appreciate your service. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ask you a couple of, actually 3 questions. I've asked the other candidates the same questions. They're pretty straightforward. I'd like to know what your philosophy of the proper role of government is, and where does that philosophy come from?
I would say the philosophy would be to have all citizens equal share taxation with representation. And I feel that if communities that have paid their dues and put in the hard work, that they deserve great representation. They deserve a decent place, quiet place to live. And right now, they're not getting that, and it's not any fault of anyone up here. It's, a lot of it is, you know, I hate to say it's upbringing, but yet and still, you still have to be patient with them and work with them. So I would just say equal representation for everybody.
I appreciate your answer and you being candid about that. What would you do if, you know, if multiple members on this this council had some differences and you felt that you may be caught in the middle of some of those either philosophical or any kind of other differences, and you felt that you had to kind of mediate? How would you feel, and how would you handle that?
First of all, I would pray about it, because in any and everything that I have done, I have always prayed first. When there is a hard decision to make, I pray about it, and I think about it, and I let the Lord lead me into doing what's right. And it may not be favorable to the blacks or to the whites or Republicans or Democrats, but I know if it's of God's way, it's going to be the right way.
I agree, and I appreciate that stance. Thank you so much. And so the last thing I have to ask you is that, why does this particular position interest you?
I have written almost every mayor that we've had about the trash on the streets, the dilapidated buildings, just basically those two, for instance. And the response I got was, we're doing everything that we can, we're working together, but yet and still, when I drive around and I can still see what I see, and even if I don't get this position, I still feel strongly about a clean, safe Shreveport. And so that's basically it. You know, I appreciate the opportunity and the privilege of being interviewed, but at the end of the day, you know, we thank the Lord for another day, and we just want to live to see tomorrow safely. And it's not fair that the innocent is either being robbed, killed, or have to live in such areas, but yet and still they're decent people and they deserve a peaceful neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good seeing you again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have two questions. First one, could you brief us on what your computer skills are?
Yes. I have computer skills as far as different apps, whether it's payroll, whether it's hiring, lots and lots of research. I've written 3 books. As you see, as you've asked for a sample of my writing skills, so I just gave you, of the last book, the first 4 pages of the book. I didn't want to bore you with the whole book, but just to give you an example. I'm pretty up to date as far as computer. I'm not no technician or anything, but as far as research, as far as entry, as far as emails, I'm up to date on it.
Okay. Second question, if you got this position, you would be working for all 7 of us. How do you see you're dividing your time among basically 7 bosses?
How do I see myself?
Dividing your time, your work week.
Oh, dividing my time?
Yeah.
Well, I will go to each and every one of you, and you would express to me what you need me to do, what you need me to research, what community you need me to reach out to, and so forth and so on. Make a list, keep great records, make sure I exhaust everything that you've asked for in a timely manner, a professional manner, and that's for each and every councilman as well as the mayor. So some may have more of my time than others, but yet, as long as the job is done to your satisfaction, then I know I can do it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Thomas?
Just want to give everybody the opportunity just to give your last comments on why you feel like you're the best candidate for this position.
Well, I'm just that community type person. I get the job done one way or the other as far as learning about the code enforcement, about all the departments, what they do, what they can do, what they can't do, talking to the citizens, getting the city councilmen's feelings on what they want done, sharing my experience on what has worked, what hasn't worked. And I feel that I don't just talk on the telephone. I actually go out to that area and see for myself. And while there, I learn as much as I can about what needs to be done, who I can call to get it done, and when I make that call, it should be done in that manner that you tell me it's going to be done. And if not, I know how to go above their heads to make sure that it's done. And I've always operated that way. I've always been successful. I've always had happy citizens. They call me still today asking questions, and if they thought I didn't or wouldn't do a good job, they wouldn't call me. So, but thank everybody for the privilege of the interview and your time.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we will have Ms. Washington.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm great. A little tired. It's been a long day. So before we get started, I'd like to give you my thank you cards.
You have gifts?
No, they are just notes. Thank you. All right.
So why don't you start off by telling us about yourself?
Okay, my name is Latasha Washington. I was born and raised here in Shreveport. I was an Air Force brat, so traveled the world, back again. Went to school in the Midwest. Being an Air Force brat, that kind of meant I went 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. I finished at Byrd, did my undergraduate degrees at Purdue University, West Lafayette, Indiana. Did my master's online. Currently back at Purdue online, doing my doctorate. Just working, raised our family here. That's me. I'm involved in the community. Some of you may or may not have seen me in other situations.
So walk us through your resume.
Okay, so currently I work at the LSU Health Shreveport Medical School. The title is coordinator, academic area. Some people call it glorified secretary. My boss calls it executive assistant. So that varies. And job-wise, whatever I've done, it always involves being involved with the community, talking with different people in technology, because I've always been a tech nerd. Started working with computers when I was about 8 years old.
And you say you are owner of LTW Incorporated?
Yes, I was. So the business closed officially at the end of 2020, as many businesses did. How it started was that I was always helping people, and one day my aunt was like, listen, you should charge people for the service that you're giving. That's real consulting. So it was a virtual assistant service. So my clientele was mostly other small businesses. It was easier for them to hire a consultant for a specific project than to go through the process of hiring an employee and then not meeting payroll and having to let them go and that kind of thing.
So you worked as a legislative assistant?
Yes.
How was that?
It was great. Currently, that would be Commissioner Roy Burrell.
Yes.
So whatever I say, he can back it up or not. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed mostly communicating with the people. You meet a lot of different people because you were the connection between them and the legislator.
Thank you. So to kind of echo what I've been saying so far, I've been a champion for this position since it was authored by myself. With that being said, there's been a lot of confusion about what this position was actually going to be doing. Our citizens have been clear. They do not want an extra buffer between their council person and themselves. So you would not be on the front lines as far as speaking for us or answering any questions in that manner. However, you will be behind the scene creating documentation that could be disseminated, information that's coming directly from council. That's important to me because I can't always rely on our media source to communicate the factual information. So we want to do so coming directly from council level. What is your experience on creating information such as newsletters, brochures, graphic designs, in order to disseminate that information?
Okay, so with my business that I had for 17 years, that is what I did. Also, I have family members where I was their marketing person. When I worked at Red River Chevrolet, I was the digital marketing manager. We were the #1 for digital marketing in the General Motors region. When I worked for the House of Representatives, I did the District 2 newsletter. It's kind of what I do. At work now, I make sure I get information out. I'll see people on the elevator and they'll see my name tag and say, hey, you sent me that email. So I'm very familiar with that. That's my comfort zone.
Second question, what are your plans on working with a vast group of people that may have different party lines, coming from different backgrounds? How will you handle working with all 7 of us?
Mm-hmm. So that's what I do. I work with a group of diverse people in all of the jobs that I've had. So usually we find a common background so we can make sure we're communicating well. It usually starts with an icebreaker. With some of the faculty that come, they're from all over the world. So usually, like someone's from Germany, I give my one German sentence. They say, hey, your German's good. I have a faculty member, he's originally from China. He speaks beautiful Mandarin, and I heard him speak it. I was like, hey, I heard you speak Mandarin on the phone. I was like, I know one word, and I said my one word, and he was like, it sounds good, and we've been friends ever since. So it's more about keeping communication open.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Tillsbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Washington, I appreciate you coming today, and I'm very impressed with your level of acknowledgement here. I mean, I appreciate you being the entrepreneur and being a business owner. I mean, a lot of people take that for granted, and they don't realize the sacrifices that go into being a business owner, both in finances, spiritual, philosophically, everything else.
Right.
I mean, it's very difficult, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you just some questions that I've asked to all the other candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your philosophy? Let me rephrase that. What's your philosophy in the role of government, and where does that philosophy come from? Where did you get that?
Okay, so my undergraduate degrees are political science and African American studies, politics and history. So that's where I am. I present as a black woman from the South, so I have a very particular interest in how the government treats all people and then how they make distinctions between people based on things that are superficial that we have no control over. I always encourage people to go out to vote, let your voice be heard, and to make a difference. So for me, when I first registered to vote, I registered with no political party affiliation. So if you pull up my voter registration, there's no party on there, because I want to see what we can do to help the people. And as a person involved in this situation in America, I want to make sure we all have a voice.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Since you would be if selected, you would be serving 7 people, 7 council members, and there may be times when we disagree on a variety of things on how to approach a specifically project that's near and dear to us. If you came into that kind of situation where there was a conflict, tell me how you would handle that.
Okay, again, it's about open communication and about perspectives. For example, the red mask that the city has every year, I was sharing that. I'm in the Zion Baptist Church choir, so we were there singing, and I was sharing that experience with one of my faculty members at the school, and he was like, well, was I represented? And I stopped because he was not represented. He's a practicing Muslim, and there was no one involved in that situation. So it's not that he had any great differences where he couldn't be involved, it's that the people that were there just didn't have his perspective. So a lot of times it's about making sure you communicate openly, get the different perspectives, and then make sure everything's accounted for.
Excellent, thank you so much. And why does this position interest you?
So when I first saw that the legislation passed, I was like, oh, that's great. Somebody needs to be down there making sure that, you know, out of those 300 emails, you don't miss the one from Miss Smith on that street corner where she can't decide if SWEPCO is responsible for that light pole or the city is, and, you know, 300 emails down, you just kind of skipped it. So if you just had a little help, then maybe that Miss Green on the corner won't be missed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Councilman Brooks.
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
It's also the same too that I've asked all the candidates. It's a little more clear in your resume, your computer skills. I don't really know that you need to reiterate them there. You've got them written out pretty well. Secondly, if you got this position, you would be working for all 7 of us. How do you see yourself dividing your time during your work week?
So probably the same that I do now. I make a to-do list, you prioritize, you get deadlines, you get SMART goals. If there's something that one person may need by the next council meeting, another person may need 3 council meetings away, you can kind of see where that would go on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for coming.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. So that concludes the,
Wait. The other ones are there, they want to come in for the end.
No, one last thing. We wanted you to have one last statement on why you feel like you're the best candidate for the job.
Oh, okay.
It's your last chance to say yourself.
Right. I wanted to come in and be like, thanks for saving the best for last, but that seemed like a little overconfident. But, you know, just with my background, with what I've done before, what I've done in the community, working with the House of Representatives and loving my city. Again, I was born and raised here. We came back here. My husband's from the Midwest, but when I brought him to visit and he could golf in December, he was like, I'm all in. So, yeah. I think I would be the best. I mean, obviously, they all care about her. They would not have put in for the position. Of course, I think I'm the best candidate based on my technical background, my community service background, and my education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. That concludes the segment of the interviews for that particular position. We do have Attorney Fleming's with us today. I'd like for her to come up, and if there are any questions for her.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Fleming, thank you for coming.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to tell you thank you. Several council members have expressed their urgency of filling the clerk's position first, not only in writing, but also in person. So I just thank you for answering the call. I know this is not difficult. You've kind of been thrown in the hot seat. We've seen the news articles. You'll possibly be my third clerk that I have to work for, and I hadn't been here that long, you know, so I appreciate your bravery and your willingness to step in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. And I just, if there,
I
did
do
you
have one
questions?
question.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
What Councilman Jackson just touched on, he's about to have his third clerk in 2 years. If you get this position, do you see yourself staying long-term?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And just so you all know, I just wanted to say I am extremely humbled and honored to be able to serve the city in yet another capacity. I was born and raised here in Shreveport. I moved back here immediately following graduating from law school, obtaining my my law license. And I just look forward to serving this city in yet another capacity. I do love this city, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you as we continue to serve this city and your constituents. And I absolutely plan to stay. I'm here now.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Lynn? Ms. Mims, thank you for coming.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you. At this time, there are no executive sessions. If there's nothing else to come before this body, this meeting stands adjourned.